I booked a romantic vacation with my husband. His mum joined us in secret. Story. I, female, 30, don't have the best relationship with my husband's mum. Since day one, she tried to make remarks and compare me to her. She then tried to get on my good side and started overly praising everything I do, and sometimes even copying me. Like that one time when she literally dyed her hair purple just like mine, and when everyone pointed out how ridiculous she looked, she actually blamed me and accused me of trying to make a joke out of her. So anyways, my husband and I took 2 weeks off work to go visit some places out of the country. Tourism, in other words. The thing is, I was the one who saved up for and arranged for the trip. My husband was responsible for booking the tickets. My husband's mum wanted to come along and threw temper tantrums when I said no. She called, texted, sent people to talk to me into letting her come, and even threatened to call the police and make some complaints up to get us to stay if she couldn't come. My husband said we should just take her, but I told him he was wrong to tell her about the trip in the first place. He gave me an ultimatum, said he wouldn't go if she couldn't come, and I told him I'd gladly call his bluff, which made him take his words back and say, fine, we'll tell her to stop it because we won't take her. Things got quieter, suspiciously quieter. The day of the trip came and we got to the airport at 2 p.m. My husband was walking ahead of me and was looking left and right like he was looking for someone. I asked him, but he didn't respond. He led me to the waiting area, and the first thing I saw was his mum standing there with her luggage. I froze in my spot. I felt a cold wave washing over me and I was fuming inside. She and my husband were hugging. That's when I quietly turned around and started walking towards the exit. My husband followed me while shouting at me to stop. He tried to stop me, but I told him off in the harshest way possible. He tried to say I was overreacting and that his mum was there anyway, and I should let it go and not mess the trip up for us. I told him he and his mum could still go and that I was going home. I went home and sobbed into my dog's fur for several minutes. Turned out he booked her a ticket without me knowing. An hour later, he came home yelling and raging about how pathetic and spiteful I was to walk out and go home and ruin the trip last minute. I told him he caused this to happen. He said that I was being so hard on his mum that it was ridiculous. I refused to fight anymore, but he kept on berating me and then called my family to tell them that the trip was cancelled and that it was because of me. My family said that I shouldn't have ruined it for myself and should have sucked it up and done my best to enjoy it. Did I really overreact? Response 1. I don't want to call the divorce card, but divorce. You told your boundaries and you said no. She crossed it. Your husband told you he would tell her no. He lied. He tried to pin you in a corner by not saying anything and bringing her anyway, and got upset. You refused to be part of his little trap. And then to berate you? He's not a good man. He needs to go, not the a-hole. Reply 1. This is right here. I would divorce his ass. He lacks a backbone and the ability to stand by your side. Time to cut your losses and move on. Reply 2. Sometimes the divorce card needs to come out, and this is one of them. Only part of this I don't agree with. OP should have gone to the ticket booth and gotten her ticket changed for anywhere else and gone to enjoy herself alone. Let the husband and his mother have their romantic time together, because it sounds like he married his mother. Reply 3. Definitely, and not the a-hole from me too. I can already hear people go, how typical of Reddit, jumping to divorce after a tiny fight. It's not a tiny fight, he's not crossing boundaries, he's steamrolling over them. He knew she didn't want his mother there. He's now trying to cram his mother down her throat. And if she puts her foot down, oh, she's pathetic and ruining trips, and everything is her fault. He's just gonna keep doing it again and again. Might as well be rid of him before kids are involved. And OP is stuck co-parenting for 18 years. Response 2. Everyone sucks here. It sounds like there's a lot you're not telling us about your relationship with his mum, but throwing a fit about not going is extremely not adult behaviour. Giving ultimatums is not a sign of a healthy marriage. Sneaking her on anyways is crossing all kinds of boundaries on both of their ends. Storming off made sense, but it never should have gotten to that point. Y'all need hella couples therapy. This marriage sounds like it's headed for disaster. Reply 1. The mother-in-law throws the tantrums, the husband gives the ultimatum, and the OP quietly walks away. Your comment makes it seem like OP is throwing a fit and storming off, which again is not in this post. It would help if you clearly listed what everyone did so that everyone sucks here, but you made it extremely unclear. If you think everyone sucks here because you assume this couldn't happen without OP wife doing something wrong, then that's your opinion. As someone who has seen something very similar play out with my siblings, his wife, and my parents, This story is actually quite believable to me. Response 3. Definitely not the a-hole. You know that if you had sucked it up and gone with them, the entire vacation would be all about catering to his mum. Whatever she wanted to do, whatever places she wanted to go, places she wanted to eat. You'd be the third wheel on your own vacation. Reply 1. This is true, but not even the main problem here. The main problem is lying and booking the trip behind her back. OP, I know this trip was expensive, but it is a valuable lesson. Your husband is a liar and can't be trusted. It is better to find out that now. And yes, I think that's worse than being a mama's boy, although that alone is bad enough. Reply 2. This is why I can't understand the husband. Not at least understand why OP doesn't want her there. It's so obvious the trip loses most of its value for you once bringing his mum. And not even for the third wheel, but in determining your activities, not the a-hole. Response 4. Where were you guys going? Somewhere tropical or Europe or something in your own country? TBH, I think you're all the arseholes. You never know when someone will die. It's nice to appreciate every moment. If I had this chance to have my mother come with us on a trip 2 years ago before she died of cancer, I would have taken it. I'll always feel bad I didn't spend enough time with my family. But you all disregarded each other's feelings. Not just him or his mother, but you too. I get it, she's annoying. But your husband obviously loves her and it's hard not to love your mother. Do you not love your mother? I'm guessing you probably do. Response 5. Look, this is some next level boundary stomping. Have you read this really old book called Sons and Lovers by chance? Classic lit. Your hub sounds a lot like the protagonist who's in love with his mum. You sound like a hardworking, good and kind person. You can find someone that is willing to set you first in their life, not the a-hole. Response 6. Not the a-hole. Book a ticket somewhere else to visit a girlfriend or family and enjoy your days off. Leave him home with his mummy. Reply 1. I agree. Take your dog, book an Airbnb somewhere nice with a garden, nice nature around you, and a bathroom with a tub. Take some books with you, get some downtime, and give yourself the time to calm down. Your dog will help you too. You will see the ability to think and feel your real emotions will come back. You are now in a kind of shock. You can't make any decisions in this state, not even with Redditor's help. You need to find some peace of mind, even if it's temporary, and this will only be possible with distance from your husband and his mother. Just do it. Take your time to meditate, read, go on dog walks, take long baths, enjoy the spring and nature, and recollect the good things in life. Or sleep all day, it does not matter. The goal is you and the time that benefits you. Make this gift to yourself. Response 7. Ruined it for yourself? No, he ruined it. Sounds like you're always going to come second to this woman, and no one has the backbone to so much as critique that. I am so sorry. Not the a-hole, but everyone else is. Absolutely everyone. Reply 1. OP. Yes, he tells me that I'm hard to deal with when it comes to his mum and thinks that I'm not willing to work my issues out with her. But I try my best, then get shut down. Reply 2. There's a tendency for some people to confuse compromise with you should be a doormat and appreciate it. This case is the latter. He's not trying to accommodate both of them. He's taking his mum's preferences and trying to make you fit into those conditions. You're not hard to deal with just because you have your own preferences. I think she's a narcissist and he's all the way up her arse. Forgive the phrasing. You're not likely to get any offers worth considering. Reply 3. It's bizarre that he doesn't know how hard his mum is to deal with, which seems to be the actual issue. Obviously, a divorce is a last resort in many cases, but I think you'd benefit from therapy and having a third party to voice these issues to. Sometimes it's nice to hear you're not the crazy one. It may help open your eyes to making your next decision about this relationship. I hope you find the happiness and consideration you deserve. Response 8. NTA, run and take the dog. If he isn't able to see the issue of this and even blames you, he will never change. Reply 1. OP. My dog is my best friend. He gets me through so much pain and sadness, even depression, by being there for me whenever I need him. I'm blessed to have him. It has been 3 years since I had him and he's still excited to see me every time. Reply 2. And that is something you should find in a partner as well, smiley face. And believe me, they are out there. I am lucky to have one. Don't settle for less. Dogs are better than humans, that is a fact. But there are some humans that also make you feel happy, respected, and comfortable. A partner should always be happy to be with you and make you feel like the most special person in the world. A partner should be there for you when you're in pain and are sad. Search for dog qualities within a human, smiley face. You are allowed to have certain expectations from your partner, and honestly, your husband doesn't meet those at all. His bar is lower than hell. Reply 3. I see in your comments you're not even considering nor addressing the advice of getting out. Please at least consider it. He is not the man of your life. Someone out there is a much better fit. Someone out there won't ever disrespect you like that, nor abuse you. Please, for your well-being and mental health, get out of there. Go on your vacation, don't look back, let your lawyer deal with it. Response 9. You didn't overreact in any way. Does anybody else notice that the person who believes that you've overreacted is always the one who has done something shitty? Anyway, by now you've realised that your marriage isn't real. Mama is number one to the mother's boy. So, what do you do next, OP? I hope you make yourself number one. Reply 1, OP. I think that my family was originally on my side, but were just trying to get me to enjoy myself no matter what because they knew how much I needed this trip and thought that I should have held on to it despite everything else. Reply 2. So they don't know that your mother-in-law would have made the trip miserable? Are they just unaware of how bad things are and how untenable this marriage is under current conditions? Reply 3. It has to be said her family probably believes everything is great in the marriage. That's pretty status quo in the abusive, manipulative type of situation this is looking like. OP's significant other and mother-in-law most likely have everyone hoodwinked and have helped her to believe that any issues are her issues. It's been mentioned in other comments how she keeps dancing away from placing any blame on him at all. What else has he led her to believe she's at fault for? Response 10. Not the a-hole. Please cancel their tickets and go enjoy yourself. Reply 1, OP. They didn't go. He came home and blew up on me saying it's my fault the trip was cancelled. Reply 2. Then it was never about her going. It was about her bullying you, driving a wedge between your husband and you, showing your place, bringing you to heel and making you miserable. If I were you, I'd get whatever refunds I could, and if you can't, invite friends along. This is not how a marriage should work. I also have a difficult mother-in-law, but my husband is very protective of me and sets firm boundaries. Even before we married, he told her early and often the rules of our relationship, and any time she tries to boundary push, he goes NC. That is how it should be. Full stop. Reply 3. Right, I get that, but wasn't everything booked? Maybe you could rebook a plane ticket and continue on alone? I just wish there was a way for you to salvage this for yourself. If your husband is cancelling reservations and getting refunds, try to take yourself on your own vacation without them, since you funded the whole thing. Regardless, this was an enormous betrayal. I don't care about you. Reply 1. Venture over to some mother-in-law subreddits. This is par for the course there. Some people have been manipulated and guilted into submission by their mums since birth, think this is completely normal and have never learned to stand up to them. It happens, unfortunately. Other people often end up going along with it because 1, they don't know any better, 2, they have been told a distorted version of the story, or 3, they don't want to incur the wrath of their mother-in-law, so it's easier to just tell others to do what she wants. Reply 2. Yep, my mother-in-law was constantly trying to be the third person in my relationship in a multitude of ways. Still, one common one was how she repeatedly asked to join us on what were pretty clearly romantic vacations. She asked directly, commented on Facebook that she wanted to go, on posts about travel, teased she was going to stalk us and show up without us knowing. The difference was my partner had boundaries and told her no. She got more desperate and pushed until eventually we had no choice but to stop talking with her. Honestly, we dodged a bullet. She glommed onto my brother-in-law even more desperately and went so far as to feign fleeing for her life from her husband to move with him when he moved to another state. Over 5 years, she got him evicted and buried in something like $50,000 of debt for cars she didn't pay for and totaled and left to be impounded, high interest payday loans for the rent she wasn't paying, and owing money to every utility in the area, so he couldn't get services without paying thousands. Even after everything, he's still only low contact with her, and she keeps violating he and his girlfriend, boundaries, asking for money, guilt trips, calling over and over and over during his sleep time, etc. Response 12. Not the a-hole, but your husband sure is. Can you rebook your ticket and go on the trip by yourself? If not, I would spend the time off getting a divorce attorney lined up and sorting out how to move forward without him, since his umbilical cord is still attached to his mummy. Reply 1. OP, I no longer want to go to that place, and I don't know why. I really was looking forward to going, but now it feels like the place is attached to this horrible fight I had with my husband and his mum. Reply 2. Honey, this was not a horrible fight with my husband. This was a horrible betrayal by your husband. And I want to tell you, as a former law enforcement officer, your mother-in-law threatening to call the police and file a false report is something you need to take to an attorney. Right now, get it on the record, because if you try to divorce your mother-in-law's little boy, I predict she may do exactly that in order to create a more favourable outcome in the divorce for her son. I'm sure you don't have any proof of her threat to file a false report, but telling an attorney and getting something on the record can be really helpful should you have to defend yourself against criminal charges and libelous statements. If she was willing to make a false report to keep you and your husband home from a trip, just imagine the report she might file if she thinks you are betraying her son by leaving him. She seems to not understand the boundary where she is a separate entity from your marriage. She may view any effort on your part to leave your husband or otherwise address his behaviour as a personal betrayal of her. What a nightmare. See an attorney. Reply 3. Totally relatable. They've tainted what memories and hopes you had of being there. I'm so sorry for them ganging up on you and then trying to turn it around that you were wrong. And your family is just sad you missed out on a trip because of your awful monster-in-law. But the thing is, you would just be in a ball of rage, disappointment and resentment had you have gone. I consider your husband's actions as one of the worst betrayals in a marriage. I'd find it very hard to move on from. Not saying it's divorce material, but it very much speaks volumes on his current respect for your boundaries and what makes you happy. Stand your ground. Hope you're okay, and I hope you can find a way to take the trip one day and enjoy it as intended. Try not to see the place as a bad memory and change your idea of how your plans there would play out. Don't see past you and hubby there. See the now you who's there enjoying it and soaking it all up with all the positive vibes you'd expect on a getaway. Write this whole trip off and only remember the airport. Response 13. Not the a-hole. You ruined nothing, you merely opted not to go on the trip. Your husband and his mother could have still gone. They made up their own minds not to go. So, does anyone in your family say you cancelled the trip? Tell them no. Your husband and his mother cancelled their own trip and leave it at that. Accept no blame. Does your family think you should have sucked it up? They're free to have all the vacations they want with her. Tell them that. Hell, even offer to share her contact information for their future trips if they are such experts in what is and isn't tolerable. It wasn't their call, so their opinions are worthless. You have a husband problem. Time for a very honest conversation about where his priorities are. You deserve better. Reply 1. And can I just point out how absolutely manipulative it was for the husband to immediately call OP's family and set them against OP? He took the literal one group of people in the world that should absolutely have OP's back, and now OP has been robbed of that support system. This is gaslighting, an extremely alarming psychological abuse, and OP needs to seriously consider terminating the relationship. Reply 2. Yes, this is an extremely important point. Unfortunately, if your family has really just agreed with him so easily, I worry that you, OP, might have grown up with a family who has not been supporting you in the manner they should, and likely have their own history of gaslighting you. So, if that is the case, your family history may have led you here, because we intend to find comfort in the familiar, even if it is not healthy. It sucks that sometimes we are not cared for by our family the way we deserve to be, but you aren't alone. And you stood up for yourself and didn't allow him to call your bluff. This is so good. That can't have been easy. So every time you don't think you have the strength to fight through this, please remember that. Response 14. This isn't a mother-in-law problem, it's a husband problem. Personally, doing something so deeply disrespectful of me and my boundaries would have me deeply questioning if my marriage is worth it, not the a-hole. Reply 1. She doesn't have a husband. She has a future ex-husband. The sooner he's a recent ex-husband instead, the more pain this woman will save her. Response 15. Not the a-hole. I hope you get whatever refunds you could. A prerequisite to getting married is the ability to make joint decisions with your spouse. If one of the partners is incapable of behaving independently of parents, mentors, cult leaders, whomever, then they aren't capable of making life decisions with their spouse, and thus cannot fulfill the obligations of marriage. This guy literally cannot function as a husband. My condolences. Reply 1. Well, it's not really a prerequisite, seeing that typically all you need to do to get married to someone is be of the legal age to do so, not already be married to someone else, and you and your partner mutually consent to being married to each other. Then all you do is sign and submit the documents, and it is done. But as far as a non-toxic, healthy marriage goes, then having agency and actually exerting it over your own choices and actions is absolutely a must. Reply 2. Do you honestly think the person you are responding to is actually unaware that being able to make joint decisions with your spouse isn't a legal requirement for marriage? Reply 3. I've seen people say more ridiculous things while being dead serious. Forgive me for not seeing the difference. Response 16. Not the a-hole. Oh my god, not the a-hole. I suppose your family is thinking of the sunk cost and all you spent, but no, just no. I know the tradition on Reddit is to always say, break up, but I don't think I could get over the level of lying and manipulation your husband put in here. That took effort. I'm sorry he treated you so callously. Ditch the man, keep the dog. Response 17. Divorce him. He's a mama's boy. A wife-husband relationship is strictly between the wife and the husband. The husband should prioritise you before his family, and vice versa. He's prioritising his mum over you, meaning that there is barely any chemistry between you two anymore. Divorce him. Reply 1. One minor quibble. She's his family above and beyond his birth family. That's what marriage is. He's not comprehending that, like a lot of future exes. Reply 2. If there ever even was, mama's boys are in love with their mums. So at best, OP is just a fill-in for what he really wants. His mother. Super fucked up and would make me never want to touch him again. Response 18. Not the a-hole at all. It does sound, however, like your husband is more invested in his relationship with his mother than he is in his relationship with you. He went behind your back and acted against your explicit wishes. While I can understand him wanting to include his family, to do so against the explicit request of his wife is awful. It's unclear if you share finances, but that would be another thing that he did without discussing it first. Aeroplane ticket, especially now, aren't exactly small purchases. Response 19. Not the a-hole. Glad you're directing your anger and rage at the source of your problem. Honestly, if he doesn't see what's wrong with this entire situation, then you need to rethink your future. He's still mummy's little boy and will never truly be 100% your husband until he stops allowing and inviting her into your personal time. I'd suggest couples counselling, but he may invite her to that too. Although come to think of it, that may not be a bad thing. Response 20. Not the a-hole. Your husband is an enabler though. His mother threatens to make a false police report to stop you going, and he did nothing about that. No, just no. You need to put your foot down hard. Couples therapy at least. Also, the way he speaks to you, this isn't okay. This isn't right. This isn't healthy. You do not deserve this. You deserve better. Response 21. Obviously, not the a-hole. Anyone who invites themselves on a married couple's vacation as a third wheel, then doesn't take no for an answer and just shows up to it, has absolutely no concept of boundaries. The fact that your husband lied to you in order to make this happen, tried to guilt you into going along, and didn't care if you enjoyed the vacation you paid for, tells you a lot about the person who's supposed to be your partner. Response 22. Not the a-hole. How absolutely horrible. You've been planning, saving, and dreaming of this trip for so long, and then to have your dreams dashed by the selfish decisions of your husband and mother-in-law is beyond hurtful. You need to sit down and ask your husband why he felt it was okay to include his mother on a vacation that was supposed to bring the two of you closer together by having experiences that you could call your own. You have every right to be hurt and angry. Reply 1. This marriage is now hanging on by a thread. She is so not the a-hole. What a difficult place OP has to be in life. She'd have so much more fun alone. Response 23. You're clearly not the a-hole, but it sure seems like your hubby places his mum's happiness over your happiness. When it comes to red flags, they don't get much bigger than mama's boys who lie to their wives as a means of manipulating them into taking a vacation with someone they clearly specified wasn't welcome.